G'day, Jerry Zimmer here. In this video, I'm going to taste the full standard range of South Coast Brewing's beers. There's a few things that make this brewery unique. One is the three guys that run it. So Scott, the head brewer, he was the winemaker for a big wine brand before he decided to take all his knowledge and skill in producing alcoholic products over to the beers. We've also got Brett, who has spent a lot of time marketing wine in the wine industry for a long time, selling lots of brands all throughout South Australia. Then you've got Mark, who was originally going to start his own Scotch brand. So they all came together and created South Coast Brewing, and here's their products in front of me. Their water comes from the Myponga Reservoir, and anyone who's been out there knows how pristine and beautiful it is. This is going to make it taste unique because it's going to have that pure, fresh Myponga Reservoir water. What the really unique thing is that all the beers are named after coastal areas in the mid-coast of South Australia. That's where I live, and that's why this beer resonates with me, and also why I love the taste of just about all of their beers. Goolwa is a location on the Fleurieu Peninsula, and this is where the River Murray meets the ocean. And there's also Hindmarsh Island and a great river community and a great beach community there. So they've named this one Goolwa Gold. This Goolwa Gold is probably the newest beer in their rotation because there was quite a call for a mid-strength beer. So let's have a taste. You can see that it looks pretty cloudy, so I'm guessing that it's not filtered, and that I'm expecting to get a bit of a fruity taste from this, based on that I think South Coast Brewing would really make something like this in their mid-strength beer. Yeah, right away I just get a little bit of that hoppiness, so it looks quite cloudy, got a nice unfiltered look about it. When you smell it, you don't get too much of that hoppy fruit smell that you'd expect when you're looking for a fruity beer. Goolwa Gold, mid-strength beer. Next up we have the Southern Session Ale. This one's 4.7 alcohol, and this is an extra pale, crisp, clean taste. Should be the one that's got the most hoppy, fruity smell to it. And this is called a session ale because the Southern Session is different. If you're from down this way, you'll understand what a Southern Session is you surf, you sit around and drink a good beer. This is the one that's designed for a good Southern Session. So let's taste this one, shall we? This kind of looks a little bit similar to the Goolwa Gold. Right off the bat, you can see this is a cloudy beer as well. It's got a nice light colour to it. So the smelling it, as I suspected, you're getting that fruity hit. The ones most session ales these days have that nice fruity hit. But you can smell the hops here. This is an extra pale, unfiltered. And again, that first hit of fruit straight away. Then it evens out and it smooths out. It's a little bit bitter at the end. But this one, as they say, it's a session beer. It's the one that's probably designed that you can string a few together. It's got that drinkability and that I can drink this for a while sort of taste about it. 4.7% alcohol, and that's the Southern Session Ale. It's the one in the blue. This is quite a one you'd want to string a few together. We move along the range to the Cocklediver Ale. This is probably one of the most interesting stories for South Coast Brewing Company. They were approached by the footy club. The brief was, we want a beer that you want to drink after the game. When Scott got that brief, he thought, okay, I want to make a beer that is drinkable, that people want to, for a hard game, they want to drink a Cocklediver Ale. But he didn't want to make it taste like all the foreign-owned breweries that are here in Australia and serving the majority of all the beer in all the football clubs. So they came up with a Cocklediver Ale, a special recipe for the Port Willunga Football Club. Now they're called the Cockledivers. Why don't we have a look at the Cocklediver Ale? So right away you can see it's that lighter colour. It's a little cloudy, but it's not fully filtered. It's 4.9% alcohol. The smell, you're getting a little touch of that hoppiness, but not that full fruity flavour of the sessions. Drinkable, but still got a reasonable amount, 4.9% alcohol. This is the closest one to, I think, their more marketable mainstream beer. It's endorsed by Ryan Fitzgerald, who's a local identity. He played for the Cocklediver, then he went on to play for the Adelaide Crows and Sydney. And now he, obviously a very popular sort of identity on radio and TV. I don't drink beer for thirst. I drink it for socialising and for the taste. But this one here, it comes across as a real thirst quencher. And I think Scott, the head brewer, when he designed the recipe for this one, really succeeded in making sure that this one was a real thirst quencher and one that you just want to drink after a game. It's pretty simple. An ancient recipe handed down from the sand savages in the time of the Great Flood to cure the thirst of the Cocklediver. Next along the line is the bitter Westerly. Now this is interesting for all the people in the south mid-coast of South Australia because the Westerly is the wind that produces the best surf. So very clever naming as far as the beer goes, calling it the bitter Westerly. As we start to move along the range, we can see that this one is a little more orange. A little more red. Again, unfiltered, so there's a little bit of sediment, a little bit of texture in there. A little bit of hops. This is a dry hop, probably what creates the bitter taste. I'm getting this may be not correct as far as beer terms go, but I'm getting a slightly metallic smell. Getting the hops and then another smell I can't quite detect, and I just want to say a little bit metally, a little bit rusty maybe. Not as bitter as I thought actually. This is starting to get tasty. I like tasty beers. They take you in a direction, they make it stronger, or they hit on a certain flavour. This is starting to get a little bit more tasty. Is not as bitter as I was expecting it. This one's 5.4% alcohol, and I think this is just a beer for people who are starting to like a little bit more taste, like a little bit more challenge from their beer. The bitter Westerly by South Coast Brewing Company. All right, we're moving along to the Porties Pale Ale. Now, the Porties Pale Ale is based around Porties, Port Noarlunga Jetty. This is the most beautiful location. There's a jetty that goes out to a reef. There's snorkeling, there's diving, there's boating, there's surf life-saving, great restaurants. This is just one of the most beautiful places in South Australia, so aptly named the Porties Pale Ale. This is probably their most popular beer as well. Let's have a taste. 5.5% alcohol. This is around about the standard sort of pale ale sort of alcohol level. You can see it now. For a paley, it looks pretty orange. You can see that it's cloudy. Looks like it's got some body, but it definitely isn't as white and as clear as most pales that you see on the market. Smell-wise, it smells a little bit dusty, a little bit more bitter, a little bit more body in it. Now this has got a lot of flavour. It almost actually tastes like there's a little bit of Scotch whiskey in it. You know when you used to, back in the old days, you used to have a depth drop where you drop some whiskey into your beer as well. This has got a slight hint of that sort of whiskey, malty flavour, and the hops, obviously the hops that go in to make this a pale ale. We move along to the Maslins Re Ale. Maslins Beach was Australia's first unclad beach. So it's a beach where you can swim with nothing on. I'm thinking red because when you expose very, very white, supple skin to the sun, it's going to go red very, very quickly. Let's have a try, shall we? .4% alcohol. You can see that this is very brown, very dark. When you smell it, you get a little bit of that hop, that fruity smell, and quickly disappears to a chocolate. That's the kind of smell I get out of this Maslins Re Ale. So let's have a taste. I don't want to say fruity, but it's almost got like a plum taste. like a fig or something like that. Its darkness, you can't hide how dark it is and how red it is. I'm thinking at 6.4% alcohol, this is going to be one of those ones where you only have a couple, or you might even have like with a steak or something like that. This is going to come across as a plummy, dark fruit sort of taste, which might really accompany a steak or a hearty, lamb shank dish or something like that. South Coast Brewing Company's Maslins Red Ale. We move our way along now to the Port Willy Porter. Port Willy, short for Port Willunga. Now, Port Willunga is one of the most beautiful beaches to look down onto. You stand up from the cliffs, looking down from the Star of Greece, one of the most famous southern mid-coast restaurants that you can get, looking down onto the ruins of the jetty that are still there to this day, and a beautiful long sweeping right-hand turn towards the beach where there's some great waves and just a great beach. I'm not going to pretend that I didn't Google what porter is and the difference between porter and stout. It used to be a porter, and then they would say when it's extra strong it's a stout porter, and then it just turned into stout. But so this is a porter in the traditional terms of the word porter. It's Port Willunga, it's a porter. Let's check it out. It's almost like I just poured myself a coffee. Look how dark and chocolatey and brown this is. We're getting onto the strongest of the strong of South Coast Brewing Company's beers. This is a 6% alcohol Port Willunga Porter. I can't lie, I smell coffee right there, right then and there. And I think that's the default catch cry when people smell a stout. They go, I smell coffee. And I certainly smell that charred, dark coffee smell within this porter. I almost just got a taste of vodka and then whiskey and then coffee. So there's an actual bit of an alcohol hit to the taste of your tongue. And then you get to that bitterness and that coffee taste, that roasted flavour that you get from this. It's dark, it's hearty, it's a winter's drink. Well, you can drink it in the summer as well, but it just feels like this is a drink you drink by the fire. It's wintry, it's coffee, it's dark, it's chunky. You had one or two with a nice stew, something that you get in a fishing village to warm up. That's the kind of meal that would go well with this. We've tasted our way through the full standard range from South Coast Brewing, and we've worked our way all the way through to the Sellicks Oatmeal Stout. Sellicks Beach, which is this oatmeal stout is named after, we moved in the southerly direction down through the mid-coast to the south. Sellicks Beach is a rugged beach with some red cliff lines, good surfing, good fishing. This is a classic icon South Australian beach. So I can't wait to taste the Sellicks Oatmeal Stout. You know, when you watch a Cadbury ad, you see them do the chocolate pour when they're pouring that hot chocolate or melted chocolate look. That's what I felt like I looked at right now. This is dark and this is chocolatey. It's almost like there was a dollop of Fluorio Peninsula cream in this drink. You can see it. It looks like frothy. It looks like a thick shake almost. In the front, it's creamy chocolate all the way, and then you get that acidic bitterness afterwards in the end of this drink. Again, the oatmeal stout, I'm not sure why oatmeal makes a better stout or whether it does or it doesn't, but this oatmeal stout is definitely in contrast to the porter. They've got two totally different flavour balances and two totally different tastes. So if you like your darks and you like the stouts and the porters, you're going to get some variety when you put these two up against each other. Looking through it, you can't see through it. It's dark, it's muddy, and it's 6% alcohol. So again, it's getting to that stronger sort of stage for a stout at that 6% alcohol. I'm almost feeling like bacon, or almost like a breakfast drink. Salty bacon or bacon and eggs would go good with this. Maybe as a start, get you going in the morning on a fresh winter's morn. You're going out fishing, you have one of these, you have some bacon and eggs, and this would go down perfectly with it. So I've worked my way through the South Coast Brewing Company's full range of standard beers. They obviously have some limited edition, some wine barrel, some different flavours coming and going depending on what season or what they can get down there in Willunga. But what I've actually done today is I didn't just taste each one, I actually drank in full each beer. So this review took me like 3 hours because I actually had to try, and I wanted to drink the whole beer and work my way through the bottom. When it gets a little bit warmer, the flavours change, you get hungry, and your palate changes a little bit. So I'm guessing you are just hanging on the edge of your seats to find out who my top 3 beers of South Coast Brewing Company's beers are. Coming in at number 3, the Pale Ale. This is my 3rd favourite beer of the South Coast Brewing Company's range. Number 2, we head over to the Cocklediver Ale. Sometimes you just want to have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of a beer. Talk with your mates, forget about what you've got to do, what work you've got, what's happening in your life, and you just want to string a few together. This is a drinker's drinking beer. For my number 1 beer of the South Coast Brewing Company's standard range, Maslins Re Ale. I like a beer that's got a bit to it. It's got a bit of alcohol in it, 6.4%. So you're getting some taste. Your taste buds are being challenged. And this beer takes me in the right direction. If you like the look of any of these beers, or you thought, I want to taste that for myself, I'm sure the South Coast Brewing Company boys would love it if you reached out, placed an internet order, get a delivery. I have the details below. I'm Jerry Zimmer, and that is my take on the standard range of South Coast Brewing Company's beers.